Now, with this class, we have a armored piercing round that I can't use right now because I'm being shot at. I'm trying to go prone here for a second. They got a big push. They got 2 tanks moving up.
Halfway there, the enemy has
Holy shit! Oh man, that just happened. Hey guys, what is up? Fly here. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Battlefield 1 and my experience in the alpha. I'll be talking about the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and the things that I would like to be changed before this game comes out for consoles, PCs, GameCube, all that jazz. So we'll start with the gunplay, or at least infantry combat in Battlefield 1. Now, I didn't really use the SMGs that much, but I'll tell you right now, I went up against them a lot. I mainly used bolt actions and the repeater, the Russian repeater, the 1895. As in any Battlefield game, the gunplay is amazing. I don't think any game other than Red Orchestra, yeah, that's about it. I don't think has a gunplay on Battlefield 1 or Battlefield level. So the gunplay is really nice in the game. What I love about Battlefield 1 though is that this might be the first mainstream game to really allow bolt action or single shot weapons to excel on the battlefield. Now in past Battlefields, you know, sure, you could use the bolt action sniper rifle without the scope and use iron sights. That's a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, you're at a huge disadvantage to the other players using the AN-94 burst that can engage at medium or even long range. So even if you were really good at lighting up your shots with the sniper rifle, if you made one small mistake, the automatic weapon, especially a rifle, automatic rifle, is going to eat you alive. In Battlefield 1, it's a completely new Battlefield. It's just pure, refreshing gameplay compared to 3 and 4. The bolt actions have a massive role in dominating the map. Now, you can't take the bolt actions into an objective because the SMGs dominate. But the great thing about Battlefield 1 is that the SMGs can't do anything probably past 100 yards. Probably even past 50 yards. Those things are very close range weapons, and bolt actions are able to dominate that kind of 100 yards and pass against SMGs. You will see someone, if you're firing at a guy who has an SMG, most of the time he'll just run inside and run away from you and make you engage him because he doesn't have the capacity to engage you with his gun at that range. Now, there are automatic rifles in the game. However, they become very inaccurate over range. So again, the automatic rifles are very good for taking objectives and close range combat. However, when they try to compete with a bolt action rifle at medium range, their damage is highly reduced, or not highly, but it's not as bad as it is at close range. And then they have to slow down their rate of fire to make sure that they can hit you. And when your bolt action has the stopping power for a 2-shot kill, and you know, at that range, the automatic rifles might have to get 4 body hits to be able to kill you. So bottom line, I am just purely loving the gunplay in the game. Now, one thing that I did complain about, and this was a naive tweet that I did post, was I was like, why in the world did they give the SMGs of Battlefield 1 the fire rate of a FAMAS, or famous, whatever you want to call the thing? And some nice guy on Twitter was like, hey man, you should, you know, check this out, read this. And the fact is that they did have these guns, or the SMGs, in World War I, and they couldn't control the fire rate at all. They didn't know how to slow down the rate of fire. It blows my mind. So they had these fast-firing guns back then, but they didn't have the technology or the know-how on how to slow them down. One thing that I would like to add to the gunplay discussion is that earlier in the video, I know I said that you shouldn't take a bolt action into an objective, and that's just from my experience. I do not do well in close range engagements at this time with the bolt action. However, if you're a good shot, go right ahead. But what I want to add is that the bolt actions, or the single shots, have a bayonet on the end of them. Well, I think every primary weapon in Battlefield 1 has a bayonet, but having it on the bolt action changes a lot of the meta on how you would normally play a bolt action weapon, because with the bayonet you're able to do bayonet charges, and that allows you to get up close and personal in objectives. And instead of just having to rely on your shot, you now can rely on a bayonet charge that gets the job done very well. I remember a personal experience in Battlefield 1 where a guy was shooting at me while I was running away. I turned a corner, I turned back around to the corridor that he was chasing me down, but before I turned back around towards him, I initiated my bayonet charge, so when he saw me, he was already dead because my bayonet was through his neck. So bottom line is that having the bayonet on a bolt action long range weapon allows it to be a nasty close range weapon as well. Now let's talk about the tank combat in Battlefield 1. Overall, I really do enjoy the tanks in Battlefield 1, primarily because each tank has its duty on the battlefield and it brings its own attributes to the battlefield as well. So for the first tank we're going to talk about is the light tank, which is the FT-17 or the Renault. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. But this tank is probably the most popular one, mainly because it has a turret. So it allows Battlefield 3 or 4 players to hop in the game and have something that they're used to using. How I look at the light tank is like an assault tank. The reason is because it has a turret. That means that it's able to acquire targets very quickly. It has a perk to where it can drop gas grenades to clear out objectives. And then once it's in that objectives, it's able to drop health to aid in keeping your soldiers alive while they support you and you support them. The next tank is the A75 or the heavy tank. In my experience, how I would play this tank is that it was more of a support tank than a brute tank. So what I mean by support than brute is that the heavy tank, at least that I noticed, had a higher velocity gun than the light tank. So it was really good at standing outside of an objective, raining down fire with its high velocity gun and soften up the enemy's defenses. Once that was done, you would push in. However, you have to be careful with the A75 or the heavy tank because it is a case tank. It doesn't have a turret, so the gun can only traverse left and right. So you have to traverse the whole tracks to be able to relocate the gun to fire. So before you went into an objective, you would, I would ask for people to get in the tank, because the great thing about the A75 is that it has 5 additional crew slots where they man water-cooled machine guns to just demolish the area, because you have protection on all sides of you. So the people in your tank can worry about assault players trying to kill you with the rocket guns. I forgot what they're really called. And you can really focus on defending yourself from enemy armor. Another note to add about this tank assaulting objectives is that flags go down very quickly when there's 6 people on it at once. The last tank, but not least, is the land ship. So this tank has the ability to be one of the best tanks on the battlefield or the absolute worst. It just depends on who is in it with you. So how this tank works is that as the driver, you get a 30 cal to shoot infantry. On the left and right side, you have howitzers that players can control. Now, one thing that I did learn after a little bit of gameplay with this tank is that you're able to jump to those seats and fire the guns, and it gets pretty darn effective having 2 guns instead of 1. So the bottom line with this tank is that if you have a good group of buddies with you on TeamSpeak or something, you guys are able to communicate threats and objectives while all working together. This thing can dominate the battlefield. Instead of 1 gun, you have 2 guns. And how these guns work is that they do have some, I guess you would call it inward traverse, to where they're able to acquire targets in front of your tank at decent range. However, if the enemy tank gets too close, only 1 can engage it. But at a certain range, both can be shooting the same exact tank. So instead of being there for the normal shoot, reload, your land ship is, putting out double the lead, double the firepower, and both guns has its own magazine. So instead of just having 5 shells for a tank, this one has 10 in total. So you can kind of start to get the picture at how dominating this tank can be on the battlefield if the players inside of it work together. And another thing, as the driver, sure, you might only have a 30 cal, so you can't get those cool explosions that your two squad mates in the left and right gun can get. But your 30 cal is really accurate and very good at taking out enemy aircraft. So you're able to take out infantry very well with that 30 cal. Your two teammates are able to take out tanks very well. And then you have that 30 cal to take out planes. So it's a very effective tank if used correctly. Now, another thing to add is that its attribute that it brings to the battlefield, or like its perk, I guess you would say, is that it's able to drop health and ammo in one go. Now let's talk about the airplanes in Battlefield 1. We'll start off with the fighter. That is going to be the triplane, or the Fokker DR1, or the Sopwith Camel triplane, but it's all the same. It's the Fokker DR1. I don't really like how each nation, this goes for tanks too, have the same tanks, but I can understand it for Battlefield or Battlefield games in general. I just wish there was some diversity for each nation to have different stuff to look forward to, or just to get a change in scenery for each game, or with the things you use, so you don't use the same things over and over again. Because in Battlefield 3 and 4, they had different stuff. They had the A-10, the SU Frogfoot, or the SU-25. They had the Abrams. They had the T-90. But I guess in World War I, there's not that many tanks to choose from. So I can understand why they did it for the tanks. I just don't understand why they didn't do it for the planes, or why they did it for the planes. There were a lot of planes in World War I, so there's a lot to choose from. But anyways, let's get back to our original discussion on the aircraft and the fighter. I don't really have much to say about the fighter. It does everything that you expect it to do. It's really good at air superiority depending on your skill. It doesn't have good ground striking capabilities, and that's about it. It just clears the skies for your team so they don't get bombed. The planes that I really want to talk about, though, that I think need a little bit of change in how they perform in the game, is the attack aircraft and the bomber. We'll start with the attack aircraft. So the attack aircraft has one machine gun, but it feels like a cannon. It feels like it has some splash damage, and then it has anti-infantry bombs. They're like little small grenades that explode and have shrapnel. Those are really good for taking out infantry, and you can get a lot of kills if you set up your attack plans correctly. Now, the things that I don't like about it is that it kills infantry very well as an attacker. It does its job. However, it doesn't really have any capabilities against tanks on the battlefield. When you take your main gun and you shoot it at it like a heavy tank or a light tank, it will do 1 damage, 2 damage, 3 damage. So by the time you finish your pass, you might do, 15 damage if it's a really good run. But then the next time you come around, the tank's already repaired from that. And if you say, why don't you drop those bombs? Well, the bombs don't do much either. Those are anti-infantry. They just don't really even explode on the ground. They just send shrapnel. Now, they do kill tanks. They do damage. But I haven't gotten a personal kill with those bombs on a tank. So what I would like to see change is that I don't want the bombs increased. I want the main gun to have more damage on the tanks. Now, how we could balance this is that maybe planes will get perks in the main game to where, okay, I'm an attacker, I want to take out tanks more efficiently, so I will equip my armored piercing machine gun round that won't do good against infantry because it won't have any more splash damage. Remember, as said before, the single gun on the attack aircraft does have splash damage to take out infantry. It's hard, but it's doable. But the trade-off is that I will take an armored piercing round to maybe do 3 damage per shot on a tank. Just food for thought. I just think that the attack aircraft only has one duty, and that is just to kill infantry. Maybe that's how it was supposed to be, but for me, that's too one-dimensional for a 3-axis engineering marvel. Now, on to the bomber. This might sound funny, but this is actually the hardest plane to fly and to get kills in Battlefield 1. Primarily for, let's just shoot for 4 reasons. 1, you can't shoot anybody down unless you have back gunners and front gunners. You have to rely on your teammates. 2, you're slow, you're easy target for anti-aircraft. Oh, there's a lot more reasons. 3, you're big and heavy and can't turn that well to get a fighter off your 6. 3, your bombs really don't do that much damage. And 4, your bombs don't do that much damage. That's what I want to hit home. I think the bombers in Battlefield 1 need more damage when they drop the bomb. The thing is that you have to be very precise on how you drop that bomb, and you know, sure, it might do splash damage stuff, but by the time your big bomber gets back around to drop another payload on the tank you just missed, you know, one of the two things he's done. He's either moved out of the AO, relocated, or he's repaired all the damage you've done to him. So what I would like to see is that the bombs are able to do more damage to the surrounding areas. I'm not asking for them to be super OP, but I had experiences in Battlefield 1 where a bomb landed right next to my face and took me down to 10 health. And I was like, okay, I really should die from that, you know. That was a good bomb, he set it up, you know, that was a player input, I should have died right there. Another experience is that I took 2 direct hits from a bomber in my light tank. All I had to do was hold X down for 30 seconds and I was full health again. Now I can understand it would take more bombs for a heavy tank, but I'm just saying right now, two bombs on a light tank should kill it in 1 hit. So I guess what you should take away with what I'm trying to say is that the bombers and the attackers need a little buff. But guys, that is going to do it for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed my experience video with Battlefield 1. If you guys got into the alpha, please feel free to share your experience in the comments below. I think this is going to be a main game on my channel. I cannot wait to see what is added. We already have Zeppelins. I know there's going to be a Dreadnought class or a Dreadnought Behemoth. I've seen pics of an armored train with guns, so there is still a lot for us to experience in Battlefield 1, and I cannot wait. But guys, do me a favor, have a great day, and until next time, peace out, fellas.